everybody? I'm Al Keck, and welcome to the Al Keck Show, brought to you by the Deck Bar and Grill, Isla del Sol. Awesome drink, incredible food, and live music on the weekends. In fact, they start on Thursday night, and some great dinner specials throughout the week, like spaghetti and meatballs for like less than $6. Incredible stuff out at the Deck Bar and Grill. We are so happy to have them as our sponsor, the Al Keck Show. And remember, all this is on the water. Beautiful venue there at Isla del Sol. All right. One day closer. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, doesn't mean one day stronger. Doesn't mean one day smarter. Doesn't mean that they are prepared one day more for opening day, the Saints and Bucs there at the Superdome. Now, what a way to start any season, but especially this season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and really for the Saints as well, because so much is expected from these two teams. So to have these two play in the season opener, and for the Bucs, it's important because they're getting a chance to play this game in the Superdome with no fans. No fans. This is normally the loudest place in the National Football League, and the Bucs are only 12 days away from getting things going. So the fact that they can play this game in game one, a victory here, and it would be truly one of the biggest regular season wins for the Buccaneers. I know that's a little bit of hype, but when you think about what is expected from this football team because of Tom Brady, to get a win over Drew Brees at New Orleans in week one would certainly be incredible. In fact, you could say that they would have a leg up in the NFC South and the NFC. And just how big is that leg? Well, right on cue today, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed another kicker. Yes, 1 year after drafting a kicker in the 5th round, Matt Gay, taken by Jason Light and the Buccaneers in the 5th round a year ago. Now, Gay had, shall we say, a good rookie season. Little trouble early, got things going in the middle of the season, but towards the end of the season, he was not nearly as good. And so this year in workouts, in training camp, Bruce Arians makes it extremely clear he ain't happy with his kickers. In fact, today they cut the guy that was supposed to give Gay competition for the kicking job with this team. And that name is Elliott Fry. Fry is gone. So the man they brought in is Ryan Suckup. Suckup had been with Tennessee and Kansas City. He's a veteran kicker and one of the most accurate kickers in the National Football League. And that's the reason why Bruce Arians wanted to bring him in, because he's so completely frustrated with the fact that the Buccaneers are leaving points on the field with short field goals and point afters. Now, remember that line in Westerns that we would say every now and then where men are men and sheep are nervous? Well, the Buccaneers kind of take it one more step, where Buccaneers are Buccaneers and kickers are nervous. They're always nervous with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they have been trying. If Suckup ends up being the kicker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, get this, since 2009, when they let Matt Bryant go, the Buccaneers will have had 12 different kickers. That's more than just about anybody in the National Football League outside of the LA Chargers. So imagine that, 12 kickers since 2009. And Matt Bryant went on to have a Pro Bowl career with the Atlanta Falcons after he left the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers never should have let Matt Bryant slip away. All right, talk this week at Buccaneer training camp. Both the offense and the defense have had their moments and workouts. Tom Brady has been Tom Brady. I mean, everything that the Buccaneers expected when they signed him to that 2-year, $50 million deal, he has shown leadership. He knows this offense. Yes, he can throw a deep ball, as he's shown in practice and in scrimmages several times. So Tom Brady has been everything. Gronk, early on, even he admits that he was in shape, but he wasn't in Florida shape. That, according to Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians said, yeah, Gronk, he's in New England shape. New England shape for training camp. But that's completely different than Tampa Bay shape for training camp and Florida shape for training camp because of the heat and the humidity. But Gronk says, enough of this training camp stuff, enough of this practice stuff. Let's get to the real thing. And you know he has to be chomping at the bit because he sat out last year, supposedly retired, but with the opportunity to join Tom Brady here, it was just too good to pass up. So he's excited to play in a game. And, of course, that means he's excited to take on the Saints in week number 1. As for the defense, defensive back Carlton Davis, Bruce Arians calls him one of the top 10 cornerbacks in all of football, and he has continued to shine here in training camp. Now, Friday, during the scrimmage, he got injured. He's been nursing a sore shoulder ever since, but the Bucs say he will be ready for the Saints on opening day. The guy that has truly opened eyes defensively so far in training camp has been Devin White, last year's number 1 pick at linebacker. A lot of people wanted to know why the Bucs at, what was it, like number 5, I think, chose White a little bit high for a middle linebacker. But the Bucs made it very clear that he was so far and away the best linebacker in that draft that they couldn't let a guy like that slip away, especially at a position of need. And while he got off to a slow start last year, part of it was because he was injured. Just took him a while to kind of catch on to the system and get things going. This year, it's a whole different story. He has been incredible so far in training camp. And a lot of times you'll see that. The true improvement for players will come between that rookie year and that second year. And that's certainly been the case with White. The Buccaneers say he's faster. He understands this defense much better than he did a year ago. So what that means is that he's moving around quicker. He's got more confidence, and the Buccaneers are hoping that that turns into more sacks and maybe some big plays, maybe even some turnovers and some touchdowns off those turnovers. Imagine that. All right, let's change gears now. College football and the USF Bulls have announced their starting times for the first few games coming up in their season. They will open the season the day before the Bucs, but they will do it at Raymond James Stadium. And USF will take on the Citadel, and that will be the coaching debut, the head coaching debut of Jeff Scott, the new head coach of the USF Bulls. Now, Notre Dame is here early in the season. There will be no fans for that game, and USF says that they hope to be able to have fans in the stadium by later in the year, but we'll have to wait and see on that. September 26th, the Bulls will play their first road game, and they go to Florida Atlantic. The defensive boss for Florida Atlantic is Jim Leavitt. Yes, the same Jim Leavitt that started the program. Jim Leavitt was USF football. Jim Leavitt meant so much to this community and that university and should be credited with building that athletic department to the point to where you have facilities there that can rival a lot of the universities in the state of Florida. That's because of the football team that Jim Leavitt started. So he gets to take on USF for the first time. You know, he left under very difficult circumstances. He apparently got physical with a player during either before or at halftime of a game, and there was an effort to try to quiet the situation down. The kid didn't seem, and his parents didn't seem too upset, but still it was the fact that people tried to quiet the thing down that Jim was asked to leave. And he left, but he got a big settlement from the university when he did leave. And this is a guy that very easily could have left for any number of head coaching jobs all over the country, including Alabama, before Nick Saban got there. So a very interesting conversation with Jim Leavitt. Let's go one-on-one with the Bulls' former head coach.
There are interviews, and then there are talks with long-time friends. And that's what this is for me. Joining us, the former head coach at the University of South Florida, an assistant coach with the 49ers, defensive coordinator at Oregon, at Colorado, and now with Florida Atlantic. Jim Leavitt is with us. And Jim, first of all, welcome back to Florida. How are you? And my first question for you, you're in Boca Raton. Is that the most beautiful campus in Florida?
Oh, I tell you, it's pretty nice now. Hey, I'm sorry, Alec, I've lost my voice out coaching. So I hope you can hear me. But the campus is absolutely beautiful. 35,000 students, 1.8 miles to the beach. It's a really, really pretty campus. I've always thought it was, and I always kind of was intrigued by FAU. And now I have the opportunity to coach at FAU, so it's kind of fun.
At FAU, now you've coached in the Pac-12. Obviously,
Right.
You had time at Florida State last year. But these athletes now at Florida Atlantic, how close are they to being able to play in the big conferences? Is it just a matter of they haven't gotten that break, or athletically, are they right there, or do they need to develop? Where are they?
Well, pretty good. Last year, Florida Atlantic won 11 games and beat SMU, which is in the same conference, with USF and UCF, and beat them by 30. And 9 of their starters did not even play for FAU. Now, we've lost a lot of players off this team this year, from seniors last year, but the talent's pretty good. You're in Florida, so you can run pretty well. Everybody's always looking for linemen on both sides of the ball at any school in the country. But, it's not far off. I think that FAU is going to continue to have a winning program as we keep going, because you can recruit here. A lot of people want to stay close to home. You're in a beautiful place, beautiful stadium. We just built a $50 million football-only facility. $50 million. It's unbelievable. So there were a lot of good things here. So, maybe not quite as big and fast, as the Floridas and Florida States, but not far off.
How is football at Oregon? What's it mean there? And how's that compare to some of the other big programs that we see down here in the SEC and ACC country?
Well, I think you overall get a little bit more speed down in Florida. Your Floridas and Florida States. At Oregon, the Pac-12 was not as strong as the SEC or the ACC, in my opinion. You got some big linemen. You got some big people out there. You've got some really good skill players, but probably just not quite as the speed is a big difference, I think.
The fact that you have a stadium on campus at FAU, how big is that compared to some of the other schools like USF that doesn't have the on-campus facility?
Well, it's a big deal because of control. At USF, we had a deal with the Glaziers at Raymond James that we had for us to get half the parking and half the concession money, we had to fill the lower deck. In other words, we had to get to about 40,000 people every game. Well, when I was the head coach of South Florida, we averaged 51 and 53,000 the last 2 years. Now, though, they're not getting those crowds. And because they're not getting those crowds, you're not getting the same kind of revenue streams coming back to you. And they're still having to rent the stadium. And they're paying out a lot of money for that stadium. Now, for South Florida, where they just don't have the money to build their own stadium right now, and that's the problem. Where at Florida Atlantic, what Howard Schnellenberger did that was pretty smart was have them build an on-campus stadium, and it's really a nice stadium. probably holds 35,000 people. The difference is Florida Atlantic had nowhere to go. You had a high school stadium, and you didn't really have a stadium that the proximity, it was just not close. Where USF, at least Raymond James, is not too awfully far, 30-minute drive. So that was our biggest recruiting tool. I mean, we recruited hard using that. We didn't say we didn't have enough money to build our own stadium, but the truth of the matter is we didn't. And we felt like, you could recruit to Raymond James. So we used that as a big part of our recruiting.
The first home you went into as the head coach of the University of South Florida, do you remember that recruit, and did he end up playing for you?
I don't remember who actually was the first, but I do remember Larry Scott, who now is the head coach at Howard. I remember going into his home, and we had sandwiches. His mom had cut these little triangle sandwiches, and we had Kool-Aid. And I remember Rick Kravitz, me, probably Kevin Patrick, a bunch of us were in his home, about 4 or 5, Calvin McGee. And we had a great time. And we did get Larry. Larry did come. So, but I don't really remember who the first home won. That's a good trivia question.
Well, now, is there a guy that you remember going into his home thinking, I got to get this kid, and you got him, the first one?
Oh, wow. Well, I had to get Chad Barnhart. Didn't go into his home, but we had to have him because we had to have a quarterback.
And he was a good one.
And that was a big deal. I worked Chad really hard to get him into the program. But there's a bunch of them. Jermaine Clemens, I remember, was, out of Clearwater High. That was a big deal. And, boy, I tell you what, there was originally about 14 guys. And I can't remember all of them. Sean Hay, I know. But there was a number of guys. But, man, Al, I wish I could. Man, I'm embarrassed.
No, don't be. I hit you this out of left field. Now, I am going to hit you with this because you've told me this story, and this is one of my favorite all-time stories, and you may already know what this is, but you finally get your Bulls in Tampa Stadium, very first game. You're going through warm-ups, and you forgot one thing. Tell us about that.
It's a great story. We drove to the old Sombrero, and I'm standing on the field with Leroy Selman. And I'm looking up, and we had prepared for weeks and weeks on just driving to the stadium, getting out of the buses, going in the locker room, going out in the field, our warm-ups, everything. So I'm feeling pretty good. It was packed. There was so many people. It was a huge crowd. I don't know what it was again, 50,000 or so. But Riggs, our kicker, comes up to me. He goes, "Coach, we got a real problem." And I said, "Well, hold on, Riggs. I'm talking to Mr. Selman here. I'll get right to you." He goes, No, Coach, we got a real problem." I said, "Leroy, hang on." I said, "What's the problem?" He goes, "We forgot our kicking tee." And I go, "You forgot the kicking tee? How did we forget a kicking tee?" He goes, "Coach, I don't know. I thought they were in a bag with all the footballs, and they weren't." And I got really concerned because I thought, well, what are we going to do if we win the toss? We're obviously going to receive, but what if we lose the toss and they want to receive? We got to kick the ball off. And I can't go to the head coach of Kentucky Western that just bust down and say, "How was your trip? How'd it go? Oh, by the way, can we borrow your tee so we can kick it off?" And then I thought, in the old days, how you put your heel into the dirt and dug a hole to kick the ball. So I was really embarrassed. So I went up to Chad Barnhart and I said, "Listen, this coin toss is the biggest one in the history of South Florida." He goes, Coach, we know that's our first game. I said, you don't understand. You've got to win the coin toss. And when you do, we've got to receive. And he goes, Coach, don't worry, we will. In the meantime, Bobby Pascal was driving to a sporting goods store to buy a tee. We won the coin toss. We received. The first play, we threw a 15-yard completion. Second play, we threw another 15-yard completion. I called timeout. Chad comes sideline. What's wrong, Coach? We got to run the ball. We can't throw it anymore. Why not, Coach? They can't cover us. Chad, I said just run the ball. I was trying to buy time for Bobby Pascal to come back because if we scored, we got to kick it off, and we don't have a tee. So we ran the ball, and we scored. And luckily, we found a tee or got a tee. So that was good because we won 80-3. We had to kick off a lot. But that was a great story. And the thing that's amazing about it, it's true. It's a true story.
It is one of the all-time stories I have ever heard. When you think about when you think about USF or hear USF or anything about USF football, is it far enough away now to where you can think about it and say, you know what? I built that thing.
Well, you know me, Al, you were with me a lot on all our shows and everything. I never think that way. I just don't, because it's not true. The city built it. The people built it. And it was grassroots. And that's what made it so special. You know, all the first teamers that gave $50,000 that were forgotten after, they let me go, which I thought was so sad, because without those people, it wouldn't have happened. And the support, the fan support, I mean, getting 53,000 people on the seats, selling it out 4 or 5 times, that was all the people of Tampa Bay and St. Pete and Sarasota and Clearwater and Largo and Dunedin and Lake Wales and Lakeland and all the communities did it together. It was never me, and I don't say that because it sounds good. I say it because it's the truth, and that's what made it so special. But I don't have to worry about what happened to me to have enough time to think about it. It was a great story. Won a lot of games, a lot of lives, impacted a lot of lives. Which is more important to me than anything. The players, it's all about the players. It's always has been, always will be for me. And we had so many great players. We just did. And, I'm so close to so many of them. And so many of them are coaching now in college. And when I was in the NFL, I got to see a bunch of them because, we had 38 guys go to the NFL. 18 made it. 6 Super Bowl rings. Think about it. That's staggering, absolutely staggering. And the thing that I love about it is we won over and over and over again. It wasn't a one-time deal or a 2-time deal. We won consistently. And that I loved in the Big East, which was a BCS conference, which was really a challenge. It just really was. So, and then you think about the ACC, our record against the ACC was 4-1. Beat North Carolina twice, beat NC State, beat Florida State, lost to Miami. But that I thought was pretty neat. 11-1 against teams in Florida. The only one was Miami. We beat Central Florida 4 times, beat Florida State, beat FAU twice, FIU twice. I mean, you go add them all up to Florida A&M. And so that was a tribute to the people of Tampa Bay, to the players. That's not one person doing it. I'll promise you. Our staff, so many great coaches, so many great support people. I want to be a servant to all those people. That's the only chance we had.
Coach, I've been in that stadium so many times, Raymond James Stadium, obviously big Buck games, Super Bowls, you name it. But I will tell you, the most electric time that stadium I have ever seen in that stadium was You guys against West Virginia on a Friday night. That was crazy.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it either. You know, the night before we were staying downtown, and I walked, to my house in Harbor Island because I couldn't sleep. It was about 1 a.m. I looked up and the SunTrust building was lit up, and I was having chills. I was just thinking about West Virginia, and it was almost so emotional that I was in tears. Got up the next morning, walked down to the hotel. We did all our stuff before we go to the game, and I get to that stadium, and I remember in the tunnel with TV right there, and I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed. Like I can't even explain it. It's hard to describe the feeling that I had when I looked out into that stadium. Our guys were on a cloud. It was incredible. It was interesting. The night before, there was a big article written. I think it was by Martin, and talking about how we're supposed to be like Louisville, that we're supposed to be like those guys. And I read the article to the team, and they erupted. And I said, we're not going to be like those guys. We're not going to be like West Virginia. We're going to be like the University of South Florida Bulls. And then I read the article about how Rich Rodriguez said we're like the Yankees and everybody's here to see us. And our guys were in a frenzy because it wasn't about West Virginia or anybody else who played. It was about the University of South Florida. It was about the Bulls and about the time that we invested in our lives and our team and our city. And this is our home and our stadium. And the guys went out and they just played incredibly well that whole night. And we absolutely beat the dog out of them. And I was so proud of our players for how they played. And it was really quite a moment. I agree.
Now, when you coached in San Francisco for the 49ers, what did you miss about college football, or was the NFL just so exciting that you just thought about coaching in the NFL?
Well, the NFL is such a different game. And everything's different. So much about the the players are, paid a lot of money, and everywhere you go, it's like you're rock stars. I'm not, but the players are. And but you don't have as much control in college. You've got a little bit more control, and that's part that I like. And I like the amateur feeling, even though I know it's big business. We can see that with COVID going on. The money is such a big thing. It's become increasingly so in college game through the years, but you still have a sense of, I don't know, homecoming. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And the tailgating and the student body and all those type of things, which makes it, the passion for it's pretty neat. I enjoyed both a great deal, but probably the control, and it's just such a different game, and the hands-on with the players is just a little bit different. Even though I will tell you that the relationship I had with Pat Willis and Navarro Bowman was special, really special, and a guy named Mike Wilhoit and Larry Grant, and really some pretty neat guys, and we kept it real in the NFL as well.
How about Jim Harbaugh? What was it like coaching under him?
I loved him. I really did. When he was head coach at Stanford, I was head coach South Florida. We went to the Fiesta Frolic in Arizona, and I sat with him by the pool. We just talked football the whole time. We didn't even want to go to meetings because we just were into football. And I knew Jack Harbaugh's dad really well from the days that we played Western Kentucky, and of course Willie Taggart was the quarterback at Western Kentucky at the time, I just really loved working for Jim. I loved his attention to detail. I loved his passion for the game.
The question I've always wanted to ask you. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. How good a quarterback were you at Dixie Hollows?
I was great.
I have no doubt, sir, bud. You were recruited by Missouri.
I was recruited by a lot of people. This is a true story. And we were playing Sarasota Riverview. And I had offers from everybody in the country.
Well, tell us about some of those offers.
I just had a bunch of them. I thought I was going to Auburn at one time.
Really?
And what happened was I threw 4 interceptions in the Sarasota Riverview game So everybody, yeah, I got letters from everybody saying good luck. We don't want you no more. And I was in tears, and the Lord humbled me and showed me that I wasn't all that. And but I was so fortunate to get a scholarship offer by University of Missouri, and just really proud. I'm a proud Tiger, So I was really enjoyed playing there and playing defensive back for Missouri.
Now, that would have been even more reason to have gone to Alabama. You could have really beaten Auburn for the right reason. They stopped recruiting you.
What was interesting? My biggest game in my college career was a Monday night game against Bear Bryant in Alabama. And we beat them 20-7 on a Monday night game. They used to have, the NFL wasn't there then. It was the college game was a Monday night, and that was a big deal for me. So that was kind of fun. That was my first start as a strong safety.
Well, Jim Leavitt, thank you so much for joining me. It's been way too long since we've talked.
I know, Al, you're the best. You're the best.
Well, enjoy time in
really
Boca.
Are.
Well, I miss you, and I miss our talks.
We spent so much time together. It was awesome. We had a lot of fun now. A lot of fun.
And I still remember that very first road trip. We went up to the Citadel? I think it was your second game, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people have no idea, first of all, how unbearably hot it was that night. And number two, you came this close to beating a team that was going to compete for the Division I AA title in your second game.
We lost 13-10. I'll never forget this. I went nuts in the locker room afterwards because I said we didn't come here to lose. We came here to win, even though it was kind of like a victory. But the officiating in the game was so bad. I'll tell you how bad it was. I still to this day have a letter from the supervisor of officials that sent me a letter that next week how embarrassed he was at the officiating in that game. I still have that in my file. So,
and knowing you, it's probably framed.
It's not framed yet, but maybe someday.
No kicking tee for the first game ever. Can you imagine that? A huge get and a time to enjoy a long conversation with Jim Leavitt. Fascinating stuff, very interesting. He will be a head coach again someday if he wants to, and it could be an incredible program that he takes over because he certainly has the contacts and certainly knows what it takes to win in the state of Florida. All right, we're in the palatial Peter Blake Studios here in Palm Harbor. And Peter Blake, my producer, how we doing on comments? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yes.
How we doing on comments?
Well, the Keckers say, Matt Colson says we need to speed things up 2 weeks before we can talk about a game, not practice, a real game. Matt Colson also says, nix the fries, add a suck up. Johnny Dean says, hey, guys. Joseph Bell says suck up is a solid ad. Matt, again, I think he's going to be the guy if he's really healthy. Joseph says, I agree. Daniel says, go Bucs. William, any word on Leonard Fournette? Want to answer that?
Yes. In fact, Kyle and I are going to talk about this in just a few minutes. So here's what I'm going to say. Stay tuned.
There you go.
We'll have the latest on that.
All right. Matt Colson says he cleared waivers today. And also, I had no idea USF had such a strong football program. I only thought they had a basketball program when I left Florida, but a lot of people don't understand this. USF was ranked number 2 in the country. Remember, they faced who? Was it Thursday or Friday night? Thursday or Friday night. They faced Rutgers on Thursday night. Of course, they lost, but they got
Ray Rice kept beating them.
Yes, with Greg Schiano, of course, former Buccaneer head coach, who a lot of Buccaneer fans absolutely can't stand. So. There you go. That's your Keckers. Of course, the Keckers for ketones here on the Al Keck Show. The
good
40. Yes, the sports broadcasting legend. 40 years of sports broadcasting experience. WTSP Channel 10, WFTS Channel 28. Back to you.
All right. When we talked about that victory over West Virginia. And one of the many to storm the field that night was my son, Kyle Keck. All of, I want to say, 14 or 15 at that time. And I mean, police were trying to keep people off the field. And I could just see my son getting arrested. And that would certainly make the papers back then. But he was able, for the first time in his life, he showed true speed and agility and stayed away from security. And he joins me now from Chicago. And Kyle, again, I was so impressed with your ability to make the moves on the field at that time. Thank goodness you did. But let's talk NFL stuff. The Saints, the Bucs' first opponent, and they're having some problems with some key players, right?
Yeah, it's been all Alvin Kamara, 3-time Pro Bowler. They're the star running back in New Orleans. It's been reported today. It's 3 straight unexcused absences that he's had there in New Orleans for training camp. A lot of conflicting reports, though, that are going on between some big-time reporters there with NFL Network and ESPN as to what exactly is going on with this situation. But what we do know that is for a fact that his absences are contract related now. Kamara is going into his final year of his rookie contract, where he's due just over $2 million in this final year. However, he is looking for an extension and looking for it right after we saw another star running back in the league get an extension in Joe Mixon with the Cincinnati Bengals. Mixon got a 4-year extension today worth $48 million. Some of the other recent running backs to get these extensions that were drafted right around the same time as Kamara, we saw McCaffrey get 4 years, $64 million earlier in the offseason. Derrick Henry, 4 years, $50 million. So some of the conflicting reports that we are seeing, Josina Anderson of ESPN, she tweeted out today saying that the Saints intend on trading Alvin Kamara. Now, one report that went against that was Ian Rappaport with the NFL Network. Again, these are 2 very reputable reporters within the NFL. He said that he spoke directly to Alvin Kamara and Kamara's agent, and that they had not asked for a trade. They're actively negotiating with the Saints for a new contract, and that Kamara has supposedly been in the building for this entire time. So we don't know if these unexcused absences are he's showing up, but he's just not doing anything, or if he's not in the building. So a lot is going on there in New Orleans.
And there have been rumors also that he does have a bad back and he is receiving treatment on that back. That's also being said. Whether or not that's true and it's just covering up the fact he wants a new contract, who knows? But the talk from what I've heard is that he definitely wants more than Mixon got, which, again, is right around $12 million a year, but he doesn't expect to get the $16 million a year that Christian McCaffrey was able to get. So he'd like to find someplace in the middle there. I can all but guarantee you this. I can't see the Saints trading this guy because he means so much to that offense. And before you even ask, and as much as the Bucs would like a running back, maybe another running back, the Saints ain't going to trade Alvin Kamara to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ain't going to happen.
No, there's no way they would trade him within the division. I think the Saints are a little too smart to do something like that. Now, going back to the trade talks with Kamara, it has been confirmed via Jeff Duncan, who is a Saints reporter with The Athletic. He's also with Fox 8 there in New Orleans. He confirmed that the Saints have come out and said, to at least to him or to his sources, that the Saints' number one priority is to sign Kamara to an extension, but at the right price, like you mentioned. And supposedly they have the offers that have been on the table have been similar to the Mixon deals and the Derrick Henry deals, right around four years, around $45 to $50 million in that range. Now, what has also been confirmed by Jeff Duncan is if they can't get the deal done, they will trade him, and they are seeking a first-round pick in exchange of Alvin Kamara. Now, I know you mentioned you don't see the Saints really making this trade. I think it's safe to assume that they'll find a way to get the deal done. But I do want to bring up that the Saints find ways to trade valuable players at the time of that current year and still be able to find offense. I mean, this is a team that traded players like Dante Stallworth at a time that was very valuable to them. Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles, Jimmy Graham, Brandon Cooks recently at times where these guys were key parts of their offense. And if they did trade Alvin Kamara and somehow were able to get a first-round pick, the running back that they have there in New Orleans behind him is Latavius Murray, who's, we've seen that he's had a great career so far. He's able to be a very serviceable running back. But there's another running back out there that's going to be a free agent, and that's Leonard Fournette, who was just released by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jaguars saved $4 million by doing so. And, they may be tanking for Trevor Lawrence by doing this, but that's a different discussion. But Fournette, he cleared waivers. No one picked him up. He's now officially a free agent running back. And if the Saints, if they trade Kamara, they'll be saving money by not signing him to an extension. They could bring in Fournette very cheaply because Fournette, although he was supposed to be due $4 million, he just filed a grievance to the NFL to get that $4 million back, which then could open up a door for the Saints to potentially sign him for a cheaper deal, for just a 1 year deal.
A lot of people are very interested in Leonard Fournette coming here as far as Buccaneer fans. And I just don't see it happening. Not this year, not with this team, not with the fact that Tom Brady means as much as he does to this football team, even though the Buccaneers truly need a good running game, a great running game in order for this whole thing to work here. And I will say this about Fournette. Last year, he ran for over 1,000 yards and caught 76 balls. So he is able to catch the ball coming out of the backfield. But everything you hear, the major problem that you hear about Leonard Fournette is the fact that, number one, he appears to be a step slow. Number two, it's the trouble off the field, and it's the trouble in the locker room. Is he the type of person that you truly want to have? And if you are a team like Jacksonville, who took him with the 4th pick overall, and before his rookie deal is anywhere near being over, you're already you're cutting him. You're just flat out letting him go. And Leonard Fournette has no bargaining power right now because the fact that he cleared waivers, that first rookie contract is out the window, and he has to try to get whatever he can. So these few weeks of training camp, if there are any injuries at the running back position, there will be teams that may reach out to him, but the team that signs him is going to get him for pennies on the dollar. And that may be the only way that a team may be really interested in signing Fournette with a show me type of contract, a 1-year deal, and then he goes and looks elsewhere next year. But I just don't see that being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That being said, Ronald Jones has done nothing to very little to truly grabbing that job and, shall we say, run with it and get to the point to where he has shown that this is his job. He's ready to take over. He is ready to be a key part of this Buccaneer offense because he's been so incredibly inconsistent, from knowing the offense to understanding blocking schemes to a couple miscues here and there. He's talented. He showed at USC he can be a very good running back, but he's yet to do it here.
Yeah, and going back to the Fournette, the market is just not interested in him right now. And you look at Doug Marrone, the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, he's known to be a total tough guy, and players are on the fence. He's the type of coach that not every player meshes well with him. And Marrone came out and said, for Adam Schefter of ESPN, he said that they tried to trade him in the spring. They tried to trade him again in the summer. And they quote, I'm quoting here, Doug Marrone, "We couldn't get anything, a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick, anything. We couldn't get anything." Now, I don't know. I'll ask you this: do you buy that, or do you think that this is just Marone just kind of being Marone?
Well, I do buy that because if you're shopping him around, and again, let's remember he was the 4th guy taken overall in his draft, and he's going into the final year of that contract, and you're shopping him around. And if you're a team that has any interest, why would you give up a 5th, a 6th, or a 7th round pick when all you have to do is wait? You know they're going to cut him at some point. That would be the time that you pick him up, because then you get him under the contract you want him under, and you don't have to give up compensation. So if they were shopping him, that is a clear sign that Jacksonville was over the guy.
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely can see that. And again, I just don't know Bucs specifically. I don't think that the Bucs will go after him. I think that although Rojo hasn't quite, won the job the way that I think the coaching staff would have liked. I know that Bruce Arians was asked about Leonard Fournette once he was released, and his quote to it was just, "We'll wait and see to see how things play out." Now, again, I guess once the season goes on, as we get closer and he's still hanging around there, I could potentially see the Bucs taking a flyer on him just to get a cheap, talented back there, just to bolster up the offense. But again, I think, like you said, unless that there's some injuries going on here, we may not see Fournette in this season. Again, in a season to where there's just so many unknowns that are going on, it would be difficult to bring in a guy like that. That's going to be such a big superstar presence on such a small dime contract, most likely. You can't imagine that he'll be super happy wherever he ends up for that one pit stop year.
Well, I think what the Bucs will do, and I do think this is a possibility. I think they will, after all the cuts, I think there may be a running back that they know of that may not be a big name to us, but a guy that they scouted, a guy that maybe they missed out in the draft with, or a guy that they have history with and they know. I could see them bringing him and putting him on the Buccaneer roster, and maybe taking the 7th round pick Calais if he doesn't do much, and hiding him on the practice squad and trying to get a little more experience in that running back room. But I just don't see Leonard Fournette being that guy. I could see Fournette, going some places that may need a number 2 guy, or maybe looking for somebody that's looking to, again, prove it. And maybe that's a Cleveland, maybe some other place, but I don't see it with the Buccaneers.
I'm with you. I don't quite see it in Tampa. One team that sticks out to me for Fournette to land is the Chicago Bears. I mean, I see their offense in their backfield with David Montgomery recently getting banged up back there. I could see him being a really great fit for what Nagy needs over there, being able to having a big back that can hit the hole, can play outside the hash marks, can catch. I think he'd be a good fit there in Chicago. But one thing that we'll need to keep an eye on and remember is that this coming Saturday is the final cut day for the 53-man roster. These teams are now going to have to cut from 80 guys down to 53. And we may have to wait until then to see where Fournette would go, because it would make a lot of sense for teams to kind of wait and see how the rest of this week plays out with their roster. If certain guys win the position, especially at the running back position group specifically, they'll need to, once they cut down to the 53, they'll be able to sign 16 guys back onto their rosters after they clear waivers. So again, remember that practice squad is going to be a little bit bigger this year. So it'll be interesting to see if once we get to that cut deadline on Saturday, where Fournette could potentially land.
All right, my man. Thank you so much. Great stuff tonight. Thanks for keeping us updated on Alvin Kamara and Fournette and news around the NFL. By the way, only 4 positive tests.
Yes.
Players in this last testing. That's out of some 58,000 COVID tests. So that too is big news. Thanks for being with us as usual, and we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right. Kyle Keck, always so good and keeps us up to date and stuff. Now, if you've been joining me here in recent weeks, you know that I'm looking to drop some of that COVID fat and just simply feel better. And I've had an opportunity to do that with a product that I couldn't be more impressed with. I mean, I've dropped a good 10 pounds. I feel great. My energy's there. And with more energy, I tend to work out more. And so you see that whole cycle and how this works. I'm not on a hardcore keto diet. I'm not on a hardcore diet, but I am watching my carbs. You watch your carbs. Okay. I'm not completely eliminating carbs. Helping me and guiding me, my Mr. Miyagi, Lynn Knowles.
I'm so impressed with this person. I mean, not only has she got me now on the ketones, here's how it works. I feel better. My clothes are fitting better. I think my brain is hitting on all cylinders. At least it seems that way. And Lynn, is it that simple, just taking a drink a couple of times a day?
Al, it's just that simple. I have to tell you, when I was first introduced to it, I was like, no way. I was as skeptical as ever. It's almost too simple. And you know, you hear that old saying, if it's too good to be true, it ain't true. But I promise you, if anyone is out there that just wants to sample this, if they want to try it, give it at least, 10 days. Give it 30 days. Al, you're committing to 90 days, which is the optimal way to do it. But it's that simple. You just shake that cup up that you've got right there in front of you, I'm sure somewhere, and you drink this down. It tastes amazing. And it's all you have to do. It's not a meal replacement. This is not a protein shake.
It's refreshing.
Exactly. It's super refreshing. And you know what? I look forward to it every day. Are you finding that you're looking forward to it every day?
Absolutely. And one other thing I meant to say, I'm sleeping better. I hit bed, I'm out. And it's deep sleep. So all that's good. What would you say to someone that really wants to try this?
Right. Well, that testimonial you just gave about sleep, we all know that, you were a late night guy. And, I know my husband, with being a baseball player, come home and your brain's going, it's hard to sleep, but for you to say that you're sleeping well, that's amazing. And your question to your point, if someone wants to get started, Al, all they need to do is, again, keep it simple. We're going to ask them to do a really easy thing. Grab your phone, text Al Keck, ALKECK, to 727-641-4284. You're going to get me personally, and I'm going to give you 40% off to get started. Whatever way you want to get started. Al, you're looking for some more people. You've got some people doing this with you, but you know what? This big group of, the Keckers for ketones, let's get it rolling. Let's get it rolling.
Let's get it rolling. Again, text Al Keck to 727-641-4284. Lynn Knowles, as usual, thanks so much.
Hey, Al, you're looking great, by the way. Looking really good, sir.
There you go. Lynn Knowles.
So join me on this. Once again, text my name, Al Keck, to 727-641-4284. 40% off the first month. This is great, great stuff. Believe me. All right. Now, we've talked football. We've talked the NFL. We've talked the colleges. Here's a story about one very impressive lady that has a huge competition coming up this week. Her name, Dawn King Duchesne.
I have made a living talking with athletes, celebrities. Many times people consider them heroes. Well, this, to me, is a true hero. She is a nurse. She is a captain in the Air Force. She is competing next week in the North American Bodybuilding Championships. Oh, and by the way, she is a mother of 4. I'd like to welcome Dawn King Duchesne. And Dawn, are you ready for next week?
I'm excited. I'm super stoked. I've been really training for this for a long time. So it's kind of the culmination of all my hard work.
Now, this is kind of your Super Bowl. Talk about the schedule that you have had getting ready for this competition.
Oh, geez. Okay, so right now I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning to come to the gym and do an hour and a half of cardio, usually on the stair mill or the elliptical or the treadmill, and then home to eat my first meal. Right now I'm homeschooling my 6-year-old and my 16-year-old, so it's kind of keeping them in order until time to come back to the gym and train. Today I met with the sports therapist to do some stretching and massage and kind of work out some kinks that are kind of keeping my posing from where I want it to be. And then I'm at the gym actually right now as we speak, training with my trainer again, and then we'll go home and eat and prep meals for tomorrow and do it all over again.
Now, are you working at the same time? Are you still keeping your job?
I am. So I work, I actually work for the VA as a nurse practitioner, and then I'm Air Force Reserve. So right now I'm 1 week in a month.
My goodness. How much do you train in any given day?
Between the cardio and the lifting, about 3 hours.
3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. And what do you consider to be, your strongest feature? Is it arms, shoulders, legs, butt? What do you feel? What do you feel is your strong point? I'm sorry, what?
I wish it was my butt, but it's not. It's my back. I have a really big, it's called a V taper in bodybuilding. So it's just wide shoulders, big lats, and narrow waist. That's what they look for in the figure division. So that's kind of my strength. They say that figure is won from the back. So I've always really worked hard at building, thickness in my back and, dimension in my back, and with a lot of lat work.
What do your kids think about this? Are they excited about mom going on to this competition? Because if you win this, and this is why you're looking for a win here, you win this, you become a pro, right?
Yeah, they're excited. My 6-year-old Ryder, she spends usually 3 hours, well, except for in the morning, the afternoon training session, she spends at the gym. She's kind of our teammate, team mascot. She stands there and if I try to put a bite of food in my mouth that I'm not supposed to eat, she tells me she's going to call my coach and tell on me. So they're supportive. My oldest is 20. She's in nursing school at St. Petersburg College right now. And so she's learning anatomy and physiology, and she kind of is starting to understand and put the health aspect into it, understanding that it's more than just aesthetics for me and for longevity and health. And, I don't come from the best genetic background. Everyone in my family is obese. My father passed away at 67. My mom has a lot of health conditions now. She was a widow in her 50s. So I understand the importance of, being healthy and just taking care of your body. And I think my kids are starting to understand that too, especially my older ones.
Nutrition. What is a typical day of meals like?
I eat often. I eat anywhere between 4 to 6 times a day. Sometimes and when I'm trying to grow, it's, 7 or 8 times. But right now it's, a cup and a half of egg whites with 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, maybe half a cup of oatmeal for a meal. And then 2 or 3 hours later, you do 4 ounces of chicken and a vegetable. Sometimes I'll do lean ground beef, but I eat a lot of egg whites, a lot of chicken, asparagus, broccoli, white rice when I'm allowed to have carbs. But it's basically, I tell everybody, shop the perimeter of the grocery store. That's where you're going to be safe. Stay away from the processed stuff. Eat your vegetables and your meat, and you're going to be healthier.
Okay, so tell us about the competition. Next week, it's in Pittsburgh, and you say you're ready to go.
I'm ready. It's next week, September. It's actually the 2nd through the 5th, but I compete on the 3rd. And it's, unfortunately, because of COVID, there's a lot of restrictions. There hasn't been many bodybuilding shows that have actually been able to go on this year because of the restrictions. So this is the first national show that they're having that actually was able to occur. COVID kind of started when the Arnold Sports, the Arnold show, which is like one of the biggest in Ohio. That was when it began. And so that was the first show that they had no audience, and it was only televised. Competitors weren't allowed to have their families in the audience and whatnot. So now, this show is going to be outdoors, which is going to be new for me because, we're tanned and make-upped and probably going to be pouring off of us, but we're all in it, together. So.
Well, Dawn, good luck. We're cheering for you.
Thank
and
you.
let us know how you do. Dawn King Duchesne. congratulations on what you've done so far, and good luck this coming week.
Thank you so much, Al. I appreciate it.
Don King Duchesne, and we will let you know how she does. Now, I love to end the show with the story from my 40 years of doing sports all over the country. And so, with college football getting cranked up very soon, in fact, there's already been one game played. I want to tell you about my very first day at Channel 10. Again, my very first day, mid-August in Florida. I'm not supposed to go on the air that night because it is my very first day. I mean, it is Africa hot out there. I'm coming from San Diego. I've never been in heat like this. I walk in the building, I walk in the newsroom for the first time, and they said, "Great, you're here. We're going to put you on a plane. You're going up to Tallahassee." At that time, this was 1988. Florida State had just been named the #1 team in the country in college football. They're playing Miami in that very first game, and Miami was also rated in the top 5. So before I know it, in a brand new suit and tie, I'm on my way to Tallahassee. I get to Tallahassee. Seminoles are working out. They're in two-a-days. I'm standing on the practice field, again, in this suit and tie, sweating like you would not believe. All of a sudden, I see a golf cart come up towards me, and I can see it's Bobby Bowden. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm the only one standing there. And I'm thinking, my goodness, Bobby Bowden's coming up. Maybe he knows this is my very first day and he's going to welcome me to Florida and Florida State. He drives up and he says, "Who are you?" I said, "Coach, my name is Al Keck. It's my very first day. I'm working at WTSP TV in Tampa, and I'm just happy to be here. It's great to see you. I'm a big fan." And he looks at me and he shakes his head. He says, "No, you're a coach from Miami." And he kicks me out of practice. I'm trying to tell him I'm just a sportscaster, but he won't go for it. He kicks me out of practice because, again, they're playing Miami in the first game. It's a huge rivalry, and he's convinced I'm there as a scout, and I'm there trying to come up with all the secrets for the Seminoles, and he thinks I'm a spy. He kicks me out. Well, we have to call the station, and here, my first day, 3 hours into my very first day at the station, I get kicked out of a practice with the #1 team in the country. Well, thank goodness the station calls Florida State officials and say, they say, "No, he's legit. He's with us. It's his first day. So, if you can get him," he wasn't able to talk with Bobby. So could Bobby do an interview with him? So later in the day, I get there for my interview with Bobby, and Bobby was very apologetic. And he says, "I'm sorry I did that, but this is a huge game with Miami, and I don't want to take any chances." To this day, when I see Bobby Bowden some 30 years later, the first thing he always says to me, "Ain't you from Miami?" All right. I want to thank Jim Levitt, Kyle Keck, Lynn Knowles, Don King Duchesne, Cedric Robinson at the Deck Bar and Grill. Awesome sponsors. My producer, Peter Blake, Megan Keck on graphics, Keith Larson of Bucs Report. I'm Al Keck. Football is almost here. We can almost taste it. I'll talk to you next week, and stay healthy.